Today we're making cranberry Bliss bars. It's a copycat recipe from Starbucks. It's a delicious blondie with white chocolate melted into the batter. It's got cranberries in there. It's delicious. I think you'll love it. The first thing I did was melt some butter in the microwave and then add some white chocolate to it. So now I'm stirring up the butter and white chocolate. And then after I get that stirred, I'm going to add in the brown sugar, whisk that all together. The batter's going to be a little warm, which means it'll pour into the pan really easy when it comes time for that. Going to add the eggs one at a time. There's 3 eggs in this recipe. And I really love this recipe because there's white chocolate not only in the blondie part of it, but there's also melted white chocolate in the frosting. And some of the recipes I've seen out there on the internet just have, white chocolate in the frosting, like chocolate chips, hard chocolate chips. And this actually has white chocolate melted into the frosting and melted into the batter. So I just put a little bit of orange zest in there, some vanilla, and we're almost done with the batter, but we do have to do our dry ingredients. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a sieve to put, rather than use a separate bowl with all the dry ingredients, I'm just going to sift them right over the top of the bowl, and then that saves me from having to wash an extra bowl. So I've got the flour in there, the baking soda, the baking powder, the salt, and putting a little bit of ginger in there as well. And then I'm just going to sift that right into the bowl. And you can see what's left after you sift the flour. There's some hard, little balls of flour, so it definitely pays to sift if you want things to be light and fluffy. So I'm going to give it a good mix, but not too much, because with most baked goods, you don't want to overmix the batter. So I'm going to go ahead and add the cranberries in, give those a quick mix, and it's ready to go in the pan now. Now I put like a sling of parchment paper into the pan, and then I had sprayed each end that didn't have parchment paper in it so that it won't stick there on the very ends. So the batter, you can see, is soft because it's warm from that warm butter and white chocolate. Spreads super easy. I mean, there's just nothing to it. It practically spreads itself, and it's ready for the oven. Okay, so I waited for the blondies to cool, and they are ready to frost now. So we're going to take them out of the pan, and remember I made this little like sling with the parchment paper, but each end, doesn't have parchment paper. So before I go to pull that out, I just always take a little spatula and make sure that it's loose on the ends where there was no parchment paper. And I can see it's going to pull out of there fine. So I'm going to do this like that. You can see it. And we're going to make our frosting, and then we'll frost it. We'll put some cranberries on top. So I've got an 8-ounce block of cream cheese here that's pretty much at room temperature. And to that, I'm going to add a cup of powdered sugar and some orange zest. And I didn't use all the zest off of this one from earlier, so I'm just going to finish it off now. Going to whip this up together. Give it a little squish first. Okay, I almost forgot the key ingredient to our frosting, and that is some white chocolate. So this, I think it's hot enough. Yeah, I'm going to use half. This is a cup of white chocolate, and I had it sitting over there where my oven vents to keep it warm, and the cup is now so hot that I can barely touch the cup. So what you do is you take a cup of white chocolate, you melt it in intervals of about 20 seconds in the microwave usually. My oven vents a lot of heat out one end of it, so if I have something that I need to just gently melt, sometimes I'll just set it over there while I was waiting for the blondies to cool. That's what I did. So I'm going to use half of this white chocolate in the frosting, and half of it we're going to drizzle over the top of the blondies when we're done frosting them. Okay, so let's put half of this in there. Bring the blondies right here. And you just want to put the whole bunch of it on there, and then we're going to just spread it around. It's the exact right amount, so I mean, unless you just aren't a fan of frosting, then you might feel like it's too much, but I think it covers it just perfectly. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're just going to sprinkle about a half a cup of cranberries on top, and then I will show you how to cut them. These cranberries have a tendency to stick together, so I kind of try to pull them apart so they're not such big, huge clumps. I'll show you how to cut these now. And you're gonna think this looks like overkill when you see this gigantic knife that I have, but it really makes it easy. So what I do is I keep a piece of paper towel handy because I'm gonna wipe the excess frosting off my knife, but I'm gonna go straight down the middle here. Like that. See how you get frosting on your knife? That'll make, if you cut right back into it again, it'll just start getting real messy. So I just scrape that extra frosting off, and now we're going to cut in half this way. Get the frosting off again. And then in half again. And in half again. So now you've got 8, but each one's going to be cut diagonally, and so you're going to wind up with 16 of them. And then they look just like the Cranberry Bliss bars at Starbucks. Okay, so we want each one to be cut diagonally now. So I can do this one and go straight on through to this one. Like that. This one on the end. Okay, knife didn't get too messy there. And then we're going to do this one right on through to this one. And this one right on through to this one. And then this last one here. Okay, so there's your cranberry Bliss bar. And sometimes when I get done, I feel like, you know, like there's not enough cranberries on some of them, so I'll go back and sprinkle some more on. Sometimes when you cut them, the knife pushes some of the cranberries down out of the way, and then you feel like, oh, maybe you need a few more. Okay, so I'm gonna let the frosting get a little stiff, and then we'll wrap them and freeze them like I told you about. Okay, I'm back, and I'm just gonna show you how I wrap up these cranberry Bliss bars. You know, a lot of times when you bake something and you bake it in a 9x13 pan, I don't know about you, but for years I would just leave it in the 9x13 pan and maybe throw some foil on it or some plastic over it. And you know, that doesn't really keep it all the freshest. As people get in and out of it, it just starts to dry out, and before you know it, at least I've done this over the years, I end up throwing away half of it because it got dried out and it wasn't good anymore. So what I do now is when I make something like this that obviously my husband and I can't eat real quick, is I leave a few out for us to eat, and then I take the rest and I just wrap them individually. And getting one of these things of plastic wrap is one of the best investments I ever made. It's probably going to last me a lifetime. I'm not kidding you. I've had this thing for probably 5 years. I use it pretty regularly, and I have another one actually that's almost twice as wide for when I do catering and I have to cover like great big bowls or whatever. But anyway, it seems like an investment at first because I don't remember how much this was, somewhere between $15 and $20 or something like that. But if you can see how big this roll is and how it looks still brand new, like I've hardly used any of it, but I have used a lot of it. It's gonna last me a long, long time, and I use it all the time, and it sure beats those little ones that you have to pull out, you know, struggle with. This is just so much easier. So here's what I do. I'm gonna push this out of the way. Okay, so you take a big piece and you tear it off like that. And then you just take one of these. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of, since these are an odd shape, it's kind of, you know, a little awkward folding it up, but now I'm going to throw this in the freezer with a bunch of the others, and then some night when we've got a sweet tooth and I don't have anything fresh baked around, all it takes is pull this out of the freezer, throw it in the microwave for maybe 30 seconds, and you have a brand new fresh cranberry Bliss bar. So that's what I do, and I do the same thing with brownies. I do the same thing with magic bars. They're called magic bars, or some people call them 7-layer bars. I make those a lot and wrap them all up, and then at any given time in my freezer I have things to choose from, and might not be just baked, but it's as good as fresh baked because they stay nice and fresh when you wrap them up like this. So there's 2. And I'm just gonna wrap up the rest like that, but you don't really need to watch me wrap 16 of them. You got the idea. So that's just one of the many things I do to try to not waste food. And I'm always trying to save money by finding the best deals or buying in bulk or stuff like that. And I have a video with money saving tips and certain things I do to try to save money and try to not waste food and that sort of thing. So you can find that at my website. You should also be able to find it on YouTube. But my website is rhondasthriftykitchen.com. And thanks for coming today and watching my video. And please subscribe. It's free for you. And it helps me out so much. It makes it so I can make more of these videos. So thank you and take care. Bye.